frankly, I voted for Kamala Harris, and I started crying as I was voting. She will bring us forward. She will turn the page against this divisive cruelty and rhetoric and evil.
I'm sorry. I can't stop making fun of these dirty commies. I'm enjoying myself right now. I know James probably is too. Joining me now, my friend James Lindsay, founder of newdiscourses.com. His latest book, The Queering of the American Child, is one every single parent must pick up. Let me tell you that. James, I'm sorry. I know I'm a bad person, but these tears, I can't stop enjoying them.
Yeah, I'm a little torn on that, but when it's these high-profile people, definitely enjoying them. These people on the TV, these people like Randi Weingarten that are running teachers' unions and driving our country into the ground. But I suspect Randi's tears are fake. I think that was pretend. We can say communism's a religion, but I don't even know. I think she actually might be so craven that she doesn't even believe her own religion and just does evil because she likes to.
Yeah, I guess I should clarify. I feel the exact same way. I actually have more mercy than people think for the street animals because they're dumb or mentally challenged and they've been lied to repeatedly. And so they actually are sad and they've gone insane. But evil monsters like that, they're not sad. They know everything they say is lies and they manipulate the dumb people in our society. And I think they're evil, not bad, deeply evil, James.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like the last at least 8 years for certain, but more than that, longer than that, we have been subjected to an unbelievable, deliberate propaganda campaign designed to drive the American people crazy. We could actually go back a little further to 2012 when President Obama modernized, as they call it, the Smith-Mundt Act. The Smith-Mundt Act goes back to just after World War II, and it prohibited the intelligence communities and the federal government from using our media apparatuses to propagandize American citizens. And they modernized it for social media in 2012 under Obama's direction, and removed that part about not being allowed to propagandize the American people. And so we've been subject to communist government propaganda since at least 2013 in this country, and it has driven people to Trump derangement syndrome, to COVID derangement, to all of these identity politics insanity that we've seen for the last several years that are tearing our country apart. And it's important that we get to a place where we can turn the propaganda machine, the propaganda Death Star, we can turn that thing off and then free the American people. And we'll see a lot of these, dumb, misled, sad street animals come back to the fold. And I think that that's the right view to have.
James, it's not uncommon at all right now to see, especially on social media, you'll have one of these people bragging about how they just uninvited mom to Thanksgiving. They've cut off all ties with their father. I had a heartbreaking email to my show about a father whose daughter disowned the family and left the group chat over the whole thing. People don't realize that this is very purposeful, that communists wedge themselves into the family. They don't know about the things that Stasi used to do, that Mao used to do. They don't know that communists break up families on purpose. It's not a whoopsie. They do this on purpose.
That's right. And more broadly, not to take away attention from the dirty commies who deserve the attention here, but this is cult behavior. So even if you're still out there somehow listening to Jesse Kelly and on the fence about whether or not this is communism, you cannot be on the fence about whether or not this is a cult. And communism is the largest, most destructive death cult that humans have ever created, capturing the lives of over 1 billion people, destroying, and I mean literally murdering, somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 to 200 million people over the last century. Communism is a cult, and so it has to separate people from their families to what they call, to establish what's called milieu control. They have to separate people from their families so they'll forget who they are and will see themselves only through the communist ideology and its application through the state.
That's the same reason they love to tear down statues and rename streets as well. On a larger level, the same reason. It's about erasing your history, unmooring you from your past so they can write your future.
You might say it's about being able to see what can be unburdened by what has been. That is actually the beating heart of the communist project. And yeah, renaming streets, tearing down statues, tearing you apart from your family. Not only are these communist bread and butter going back to the Bolsheviks in Russia and to the Chinese, the PRC, in China. When we look at the Chinese case, what Mao Zedong did during the Cultural Revolution, you had young people renaming themselves with new revolutionary names. It's exactly like the trans phenomenon, people giving themselves new names with their old dead name. You had statues coming down. You had streets being renamed to revolutionary terms. And the whole idea was to tear down all of the, like you said, all of the mooring, all of the tethering to the old society, so that all that there was for young people was the communist vision for what was coming for their lives in the future. And they would get these kids whipped up on this, thinking that their lives were going to be great once they destroyed all of their class enemies, including their parents, who had to be denounced, including their grandparents, their teachers, their religions. Everything in society that existed had to be torn apart and destroyed. And for about 2 years, there was mayhem in China, 66 to 68, while the young people, the Red Guard, went wild doing this until Mao got his power back and then kicked them all out to the countryside to live in misery and die.
You know what couldn't happen to better kids? I'll tell you that much. Okay, the trans stuff, it almost seems, and maybe I'm wrong on this, it almost feels like we kind of hit a bottom in our society on this. Please pardon the pun with that. But it feels like we've reached a stopping point there where it went so far. It got so in your face. It got so gross the American people said no. But the American people don't really understand what that was about. What was it about?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm most proud of is in 2019, so way back 5 years ago last month, I predicted that if they ever went fully public with the trans stuff and the queer theory, that it would be their undoing. And it appears to have been that. I think that that was the primary mover for a lot of people who voted for Trump, and especially a lot of new voters for Trump who are abandoning the Democratic Party and voting Republican for the first time in their lives. And what they don't understand still, and I guess this is a mission for me to try to educate them, is that queer theory is directly a derivative of Marxism. It's not just about finding out who you really are. It's about adopting an intentionally oppositional politics that is oriented against anything being considered normal or legitimate unless the cult itself approves it. And it uses a Marxist line of division that certain people consider themselves to be normal, so they're privileged, and other people are not considered normal, so they're oppressed by the idea of normalcy and legitimacy themselves. And so they take upon this idea that they can transform their sex, transform who they are, rename themselves, and usually to make themselves extremely ugly or scary or something, or to enact sexual fetishes and whatever else, as a way to disrupt normal society intentionally. It's not just about having brainwashed and created social pressures or social contagions for kids. It is a deliberate attempt to destabilize children, to turn them into a revolutionary class that will tear apart society.
All right, so we know why communists destroy children, destroy families. How do we, without getting the government freaking involved, because they'll screw it up, how do we encourage families going forward, James? Mothers, fathers, how do we strengthen families so we never have to get a text message from our daughter that she's uninviting us from Thanksgiving? How do we do this?
You know, honestly, and I know this is a big theme that resonates with you, that we got in this mess because a lot of people were comfortable enough to live their lives on autopilot. People have been parenting on autopilot. They've been just assuming that it's absolutely natural, for example, to send your kids to government-run schools running government programming with not really to even know what's going on with that government programming, and just trust your kids with the government for, 40 hours a week. This has all kind of got to change. It's got to be no more parenting on autopilot. Let's get intentional parenting. And when you get your mindset right about this is actually not this, burden that the left has led us to think, that interacting with your family, having children, doing things with them, getting to know them, spending intentional time with them is somehow a burden from the better part of the rest of your life. No, this is a very enriching phenomenon. And you talk to most conservatives, they understand. They spend a lot of time with their family. They enrich that time with their family. So what parents need to be doing is protecting their children from the schools writ large, public especially, private also, but they also need to be spending a lot of intentional time with them, teaching them about the road that they're going to walk, which is filled with this kind of garbage that the kids are going to have to navigate. They should not hear about this stuff for the first time from their friends or on social media, even worse. And parents are going to have to be very intentional. Spend time. Make sure your kids absolutely know that you love them and that they can come to you with anything that they see at their school or whatever that is inappropriate, that says to keep secrets from their parents. And build that relationship, spend time, get to know your kids, have family dinners, all the stuff that makes a family, start doing it again. And that's going to be the number one protection, is to stop parenting on autopilot and get very involved, whether it's your kids' everyday lives, their friends groups, their religion. Take them to church, do church as a family every Sunday. It doesn't really even matter if you're that religious. Find a good church teaching good values and go together as a family. Churches are places where people are trying to become better people on purpose in and of themselves, and it's a very pro-family environment. So I encourage that. And it doesn't matter also if it's their educational environment. Get very involved, all the way to the point, if you can, of homeschooling. Get very involved in your kids' educational process. No more autopilot.
I would encourage the ladies out there, if you so desire, consider substitute teaching in your child's school. My wife does that, and it has gotten her intimately more involved in their education, what they're learning, the administration, the problems that may come. James, you are the man, my brother. Appreciate you, as always. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.